To Pat and Bill, she was family, their niece. It's why they trusted Helen Patricia Moore to babysit their little girl, Susan. The toddler was one of 3 children she murdered. Another 2 almost died. In their first interview in nearly 50 years, they're asking, could this serial killer have been stopped? And were there more victims?
Helen Moore, a babysitter, was given life for murdering 3 children and trying to kill 2 more.
It's 47 years later and I'm still shocked.
She's the teenager turned killer babysitter.
She served 13 years in prison. That's less than 3 years per baby.
When she took Rachel, she took our family. She took our life.
Now a convicted murderer allowed to babysit again.
She was like a nun to me, so I don't want to believe it at all.
Helen Moore, Erin Ramsey, ACurrentAffair. Is it true you're still babysitting? Your brother Craig...
Do I have babysit? No, I don't.
Anger over her freedom, tonight opening up the floodgates to explosive revelations.
She told me she had killed her little brother.
That could have stopped a monster.
All I know is that there's a lot of babies out there that dead that shouldn't be.
I've always said that there are people who are born bad, and I think in this case she was born bad.
This is Claymore, a suburb about an hour southwest of Sydney. In the 70s, it was a thriving public housing project. Young families moved here to start a new life. It was a close-knit, trusting community and the perfect preying ground for Australia's worst female child serial killer, Helen Patricia Moore.
She was 17 years old when her killing spree began. Her victims were the most vulnerable, toddlers who were sleeping. For the first time in almost 5 decades, Pat and Bill are ready to share their story.
I blame myself because we went to the party. If we hadn't gone to the party, it wouldn't happen.
Susan Louise was a bubbly baby, the apple of her dad's eye.
We had a fairly low window ledge in the house overlooking the driveway, and as she would stand there waiting for the car to come in, then she'd jump up and down saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy."
Pat and Bill so desperately miss their little girl, they still cling to the last moments spent together at Sydney's Luna Park.
We went as a family, yeah. Not that she could go on very much. But...
I've kept that all these years, just because she loved sultanas, and that was the last thing I bought her.
In May 1979, Pat and Bill booked themselves a very rare night out. Helen Moore was their niece and their last-minute babysitter.
I'd fed Susan earlier, and I put her into her cot and tucked her in and said goodnight. And that was it. Then we all left.
Whilst out, they received a call from Helen that their baby girl had fallen ill.
We went home, half the way by police car. They stopped us and asked why we were speeding. We told them, they said, just get in the back and we'll take you. And we were panicking because there was nothing wrong with her when we left. She was perfectly healthy and asleep. We went straight to the clinic where she was, and she was lying on a bed, all wrapped up in a sheet.
And we both spoke to the 2 policemen hung around, and we both said to them, look, this is just, doesn't look right.
Something wrong.
Susan's official cause of death was suffocation from choking on her vomit. And at the time, police believed there was no reason to investigate further.
We truly believed that Helen had killed her, but they didn't want to know. We just wanted justice for our daughter, and we haven't got it yet, so...
And if you had been taken seriously from the very beginning...
We would have lost Susan, but the others would still be alive today.
After avoiding suspicion following Susan's death, Helen began widening her net, advertising her babysitting services to the rest of the community on a local notice board.
Little Susan was Helen's cousin, her first victim. 8 months later, she tried to suffocate a 1-year-old boy. The next month, she tried again. This time, a 2-year-old boy she was minding. Both children survived. Her fourth victim was toddler Rachel Hay.
She was a very smiling, very loving, beautiful, natured little girl.
Darren Hay and his 3 sisters were being watched by Helen that night.
I do remember Dad putting his watch on my hand and he said, you're the man of the house tonight, you look after your sisters. I remember Helen saying she was going to put Rachel to bed, and my eldest sister Sonia was somewhere in the doorway and seen Helen do something, and the cold-hearted, evil person she was turned around and said to my sister, you've seen nothing. If you tell anybody what you've seen, your kids, your brother and sister will be next.
Darren remembers the moment his parents found Rachel in her cot.
I remember the screams. The screams were just horrific. My mother fell to the ground. We was taken next door, and then I remember seeing a great deal of police, ambulances, and we was told that at 2 years and 2 months it was SIDS.
SIDS, or cot death, the unexplained death of an infant.
She was too old to die of SIDS.
Yes, so why was there no questions asked?
Mm-hmm.
Then at the funeral, in that sick, cold-hearted, twisted mind, she slowly went up to that coffin and placed a flower on the coffin. She just killed our sister. She just killed my parents' daughter.
In the space of 9 months, the teenager killed 3 children and tried to kill 2 others. Helen's ruse unravelled with the death of her final victim, her 7-year-old stepbrother, Peter. This time, it clearly wasn't cot death.
7-year-old boy sitting on a beanbag watching TV. She came up behind him and just grabbed him.
Craig is Helen's brother. He was at school when she attacked Peter, smothering him to death.
And that was how she got caught, because the ambulance officers saw the scratch marks under his eyes and called the police.
Helen Patricia Moore was arrested at Claymore near Campbelltown on April the 1st. It was the day after she...
The teenager was hauled in, where she confessed to the 5 crimes and was later convicted.
Helen was hit with 3 life sentences for killing Susan, Rachel and Peter, and an additional 10 years for the 2 attempted murders. But was there a 6th victim? Her very first. He was 2, also her stepbrother. His name was Andrew, a crime her school friend says Helen confessed to.
The Helen I knew, the Helen I grew up with, I couldn't have said a bad word about.
Kat Delaney says Helen was a normal, knockabout girl, but one schoolyard conversation changed everything.
She just looked me straight in the face and just told me, matter-of-factly, I killed my little brother. And I'm, what? I can remember the reaction was, what? Oh, Helen, no, your little brother died of a cot death. You know, we're trying to reinforce that it wasn't her fault. I've gone and knocked on the deputy principal's office and I said, look, Helen Moore's told me you know, that she's killed her little brother.
What was it about that confession that made you go to the deputy principal?
Because it sounded real.
I know she killed Andrew. I know she did.
Helen's brother Craig was home the night the second of his stepbrothers, Andrew, died.
He was in his cot asleep. Helen said she was going in to clean her room. She was in there for ages, and then all of a sudden she screamed out. We raced into the bedroom, and I picked him up out of his bed and put him on Helen's bed, trying to give him mouth to mouth. But I was only like 12 years old at the time. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I couldn't bring him back.
Your brother Craig has made historic abuse allegations against you. Anything to say to that? Did you have anything to do with the death of your baby brother? So, did 2-year-old Andrew die of SIDS, or did Helen kill him too? These questions are why Craig is still fighting to this day to have the death of his baby stepbrother re-investigated.
There's no statute of limitations on murder. I want them to get interested. It's a murder of a baby.
What happened when you last spoke to police?
I got a phone call saying they'd be up to take a full statement off me within 2 to 3 weeks. That was 4 or 5 weeks ago now. I keep ringing them day and night. I try all different times of the day and different times of the night. They don't even answer the phone.
Do you think police are taking you seriously?
No. I just want them to hear the evidence and see what they can do.
Do you think it's fair for police to re-investigate that death?
I think if there's enough evidence, absolutely, because people want closure. Clearly her behaviours.
Tim Watson-Munro is a criminologist. He's examined the minds of more than 20,000 perpetrators in his career.
How would you describe her crimes?
Psychopathic, willful. I think she knew what she was doing. There was a complete absence of remorse, and I think she was escalating. She kept going because she wasn't caught, and I think she was empowered and emboldened by people accepting that this was not her doing.
Based on psychiatric evidence that suggested she was schizophrenic, they could have found her not guilty because of mental illness, or they could have found her guilty of manslaughter with diminished responsibility. The third possibility was a straight-out acquittal. The jury rejected all these options. They ruled Helen should take full responsibility for her crimes. The verdict they chose carried only one sentence: life imprisonment.
Helen never faced questioning over the death of her younger brother. And despite being sentenced to life for her confessed crimes, in 1980, life didn't mean life. She was released after just 13 years, when she was 31. And it wasn't long before Helen was babysitting again.
She moved in to the house across the road from us about a year after we moved there.
Aaliyah was 10 years old when she met Helen on the New South Wales Central Coast. It was 2013 and Helen was living under her married name, Helen Anderson.
I thought she was really lovely and nice.
And was she more than a neighbour to you?
I spent every weekend there, sometimes 4 times a week, just go over there, spend a night, even during school.
And what do you remember about her house?
The lounge room used to kind of give me the creeps a bit. It was floor-to-ceiling teddy bears all around the TV unit, underneath the window, even behind the lounge as well.
Aaliyah says Helen would get angry if she ever touched her teddy bear collection.
She would creep in really close to me, and her eyes as wide as possible, and I used to lean back a bit and get a bit, nervous and sick.
What is it? Oh, Dad.
Aaliyah, now a mother herself, remembers Helen's obsession with watching the news and following true crime pages on Facebook.
So a lot of it was about children, and especially really bad stories. She would creep in like close to my face and be like, oh, I think it's disgusting how people could do this to kids.
And in hindsight, how does that make you feel now, knowing the truth about her?
It's crazy. It kind of is like she was watching out to make sure no one's posted anything and keeping an eye on making sure like no one's found out her identity.
Later on, Helen also began babysitting Aaliyah's nieces.
I can't imagine if anything happened to them.
Until one day, Aaliyah's 1-year-old niece came home from Helen's and began reenacting something on her own father.
She was trying to choke out her dad and saying nanny, nanny, which is what she called Helen. But her dad put his foot down and said she's not going over there ever again.
Aaliyah's family eventually discovered the truth.
I was shocked. I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it because she was like a nan to me, so I don't think it's right that we just didn't know. I don't think it's right. She lived around the corner from a primary school. And sometimes she'd even be sitting at the front of the house watching the school kids walk home.
Helen wasn't on the Child Protection Register at the time.
The system's a joke. It's not preventing harm to the child, it's helping them catch somebody after another child's broken.
Thanks to Craig, his sister is now on the register, but in New South Wales it is not public. At 63, Helen lives less than 100 metres from a daycare centre.
Is it true you're still babysitting? Your brother
Do
Craig...
I have babysit? No, I don't.
Well, I have been told by your neighbours and your old neighbours that you have still been babysitting.
I have had a stroke, I have seizures, I am not babysitting.
Should the community, the general public, be worried?
Well, I believe so.
And they have a right to know?
100% they have a right to know. This is not somebody who went to jail for jaywalking. She killed 3 young kids, she attempted to kill 2 others.
And let's not lose the fact that she still is Australia's worst woman serial killer.
So another monster out on the street again. And to be honest with you, I always went to thinking, when's she going to start again?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? A detective has now been in touch with Craig, promising to take a full statement from him this week. Next,